We start with a misleading scene. A man is kneeling next to a little girl, unzipping her pants, lips to lips. A woman sees everything. She runs away hurriedly. Not long after, the man was arrested and then sentenced for rape and murder. Nobody minded. He only wanted to help the little girl. No one cared. He was intellectually handicapped with the intelligence of a 6-year-old child. The worst miscarriage of injustice in a decade. It became the highest grossing Korean movie. It is the famous Miracle in Cell Number 7. The protagonist is Lee Gong-yu. Despite having learning disorders, he is extremely kind. Hyung-gu very much loves his daughter. After he was arrested, the police took advantage of his desire to go home to his daughter and trick him into admitting to the crime he did. The court sentenced him to death. They held him in cell number 7. The police chief heard about his crime. He targeted Hyung-gu and beat him up. There had been 5 inmates in that cell already. Conmen, burglars, tyrants, and the jail boss was a mafia gangster. They saw that Hyung-gu had mental problems, so they took his verdict. Having learned of such hideous crime, they beaten him up once again. Hyung-gu had been isolated and bullied every day ever since. He could only sit alone, drawing his daughter's name on the ground with a branch. He looks up and notices an odd man who was honing an old toothbrush. The more he honed, the sharper it became. Finally, it was handed to a boss. The boss looked ferocious, looking afar. Hyung-gu realized there was the boss of jail cell number 7. The gangster approached him in front of everyone's eyes. He was going to stop him. Suddenly, he dashed. Hyung-gu jumped in to stop him, only to hurt himself. The cell number 7's boss knocked the guy out until the guard came. Later, Hyung-gu returned to his cell. His belly wound was still bleeding. The boss said, "You saved me once. I will return the favor. Do you want anything?" It turned out the boss was a know-it-all. He could smuggle anything in. The prisoners made balls and he took advantage of this. During labor time, he would pretend to throw a ball over the prison walls, and there would be another ball flying back from the other side. Inside the latter were prohibited stuffs, but what Hyung-gu asked for was difficult. He wanted to see his daughter. The task was indeed hard to accomplish, but the boss had never gone back on his word. He promptly planned for the hymnody and invited a throng of singers and dancers. There would be children, including Hyung-gu's kid. She was brought along and was put in a carton box, which was delivered to cell number 7. The prisoners opened the box. They saw a little girl. She stuck out her head. Everyone smiled. She looked around and found his dad sitting in the corner. The dad cried and crawled up to her. He hugged her tightly. But he did nothing wrong. The two of them kept crying louder and louder. A guy couldn't stand it any longer. He was afraid of being caught, so he called the guards over. Even though the girl begged him not to, even though everyone tried to stop him, but he still brought the guards. The kid ran to the cell door and sat down. The guard came, but he couldn't see the girl. When the prisoner was about to tell him, that kid held onto his hand. She looked at him with eyes full of tears. Having thought for a while, he finally changed his mind. They were safe for a while. The little girl hugged her dad. She understood. They couldn't make noise. The inmates were surprised. A dumb man like him could have a really clever daughter. A middle-aged man gave her his milk. She asked her dad, "Why are you here? Are you a bad man?" Hyung-gu said, "These people are all bad guys. I am not." This made everyone confused. And then there came a spanner in the works. The hymn singers left early. She didn't have time to blend in to get out. Therefore, she had no choice but to stay at the cell number 7. The father and daughter enjoyed this so much, but the rest of them by no means liked the idea. While 2 men tried to hide the little girl, the last 3 tried to get her out. But she did bring a lot of joy to the cell. The cheerless prison for her existence filled the place with sunlight. Those coarse men turned into loving fathers and looked after her, but the happy days couldn't last long. In one spot check, she was caught by the warden. He was mad. He dragged Hyung-gu out. Hyung-gu rumbled all the way.
이만하여 예수님 감기 걸려요 감기.
The warden just got madder.
남의 딸을 죽여놓고 네 딸을 보고 싶어.
Another beating. Hyung-gu was put in isolation. His daughter was taken home. Then started a chain of events. The news about someone getting inside was leaked. A prisoner reacted with chaos. He stole a gas can and lit up the place. Said he wanted to burn it down. The warden had to talk to him. The fire grew. That prisoner went crazy and wouldn't leave. The warden had no choice but to enter and drag him out. Yonggu was just being transferred at that point, and somehow saw the warden was unconscious. He wanted to help too. He stormed inside, and then, when the warden came round, he was already in the hospital. The doctor told him it was the dumb Yonggu who risked to save him. The warden looked at Yonggu, who was still unconscious and heavily burned. He started to rethink everything and decided to repay Yonggu by letting him and his daughter meet. Witnessing the two of them were so attached despite the clear glass, and Yonggu's kids showed genuine sadness. When he was pulled away, the warden started to see Yonggu in a different light. How could a cruel prisoner act so loving? He later heard the girl was sick, for she was missing her dad and wouldn't eat. He came to visit her in the hospital. She cried and said,
같이 잡아가시면 안 돼요?
He turned around but couldn't answer her. That day, a carton box was delivered to cell number 7. A little girl hopped out. It was Yonggu's daughter. He hugged her, smiling and crying at the same time. The guard said the warden arranged this. The distant and cold warden turned out to be warm. After that, Yonggu went to thank him. The warden asked why he killed that girl. He couldn't answer him. Indeed, he was intellectually disabled. How could he explain everything? The warden looked into the case. He found the files, found Yonggu's confession. Something was wrong. A man with intelligence of a 6-year-old couldn't be able to write confessions. Inside the cells, Yonggu's inmates also looked into things remotely. They followed all the leads and reconstructed the crime scene. Everything started to become clear. The victim was walking in 18 Celsius degree weather. She accidentally slipped and fell. Since she was wearing a backpack, the back of her head got hit. Her death was an accident. Then why did Yonggu unzip her pants and touch her lips? They are what Yonggu was taught during CPR training. He was trying to save her, but she was the daughter of the Director General of Police. Under pressure, the police had to solve the case quickly, which led to a wrongful verdict. The warden met with the Director General so he could be granted access to the case. But that man was blinded by sorrow and hatred. He didn't care about the truth. Someone had to die. The case was going to be closed. This was also Yonggu's last chance. His inmates scared that he would say something wrong. They wrote him his statement. Check on him learning it by heart every day. Finally, the trial happened, but no one could predict. Before the trial, the Director General would enter Yonggu's room and beat him cruelly. He told him, "Admit you did it, or we'll make sure your daughter dies like mine." Standing before the judges, Yonggu's eyes became vacant. When the lawyer asked, "Did you kill her?"
네, 있어요. 네.
Everyone was mad. They all wanted to beat him to death. The warden stood up for Yonggu, said that he was mentally unstable, but Yonggu kept repeating,
나 때문에 죽었어요. 미안합니다. 미안합니다.
누가 그렇게 미안해? 너한테 사과 한마디 한 놈 아무도 없는데 넌 도대체 뭐가 그렇게 미안해?
예승이 도와주세요. 우리 예승이.
The verdict was clear to see. Nothing was overturned. The prisoners didn't want Yonggu to end up dead. They united to plan for a big prison break. On a beautiful evening, they let Yonggu and his daughter sit on an air balloon so they can take off with love. The warden smiled. The guards also smiled. They waved goodbye, but the rope got stuck in the fence. The plan failed. The sentencing day was Yonggu's daughter's birthday. The warden brought her to cell number 7 so she could see her dad for the last time. Everyone put on smiles, but they all wiped their tears secretly. Her birthday was over. Yonggu and his daughter walked out of cell number 7 holding hands. An iron door separated them. They had to say goodbye again. They embraced each other for one last time. They smiled. The warden walked Yonggu away. Before turning, he even made an ugly face to make his daughter happy. Then he was gone. But she kept looking at the corner, waiting for her dad to jump out like he always did, to surprise her. Not this time. She counted once again. She couldn't hold back anymore.
아빠! 아빠!
Yonggu seemed to realize something. He ran back, hugged her through the iron door. This stubborn man, who never cried even when he got beaten, when he knew that he could never see his daughter again. For the first time, he begged for everyone's help. He said he was sorry, he was wrong. He said, "Help me." The warden's eyes welled up. He couldn't save him. This world couldn't keep him. So the warden adopted the little girl and raised her as his own child. Many years later, she has become a lawyer. She has the integrity and kindness of her dad. She found all of cell number 7's old prisoners. Everyone who had stood for Yonggu wouldn't stop speaking good of him. She presented it, and a committee decided Lee Yonggu was innocent. At the end of the movie, she walks out of the prison. It was snowing harshly outside. She pictured herself and her dad in the air balloon, waving at her. There will always be snow in the middle of June, but don't be scared. We can wipe away the tears and remember those happy moments. Thank you for watching and see you on our next video.